There is a question haunting the internet right now. It is in the comment sections. It is filling up doctors' private messages. And it is the unspoken anxiety hanging over millions of people who have recently transformed their bodies. The question is simply this: what happens when the music stops? What happens if you stop taking the medication? Does the weight just come roaring back like a tidal wave? Or is there an actual, scientifically viable way to lock in those results for good? Welcome back to the show. Today, we are staring down the barrel of the post-medication reality. We are moving past the miracle drug honeymoon phase and talking about how to build an absolute metabolic fortress.
It really is the million-dollar question of our era, isn't it? We are witnessing a massive transition right now. People are moving out of the acute clinical treatment phase and suddenly finding themselves standing at the edge of long-term longevity science. And the hard truth we have to face is that we absolutely must abandon the shortcut mindset. The medication is an incredible tool, but it is a scaffold. If you build a building using a scaffold, and then you tear that scaffold away before the concrete has actually set, the whole structure collapses. Today is about how we pour that concrete. It is about the clinical biology of weight regulation, and more importantly, sustainable lifestyle integration.
Exactly. And let us get right into the scary part, because the statistics we are seeing are sobering. A significant number of people who stop these GLP-1 medications see the weight pile right back on. Why is our own biology so incredibly stubborn? Why does it feel like the body is actively plotting against us the second the medication is gone?
To understand that, you have to look deeply into the biology of hunger and how weight regain actually works at a neurological level. Think of your body's weight set point as a highly protective, slightly paranoid thermostat. When you are on the medication, it artificially suppresses your appetite. It essentially hacks the thermostat. But the moment you remove that external control, your brain realizes there is a discrepancy. The medication-induced suppression disappears, but your brain's original set point, which might still be calibrated to your previous, heavier weight, starts pulling the alarm. It wants you back at what it considers your safe baseline.
It reminds me of the security guard metaphor we discussed in our very first episode. It is like the security guard who manages your fat stores was sent on a luxury vacation by the medication. But now the vacation is over, the funding got cut, and he is back at his desk, and he is furious.
That is a brilliant way to put it. He is furious, and he is armed with hormones. Without the drug there to manage your appetite regulation, the dopamine pathways in your brain, the ones that drive food-seeking behavior, can suddenly spike. This is what people refer to as the return of food noise. It can be deafening. If you have not used the time on the medication to build entirely new metabolic habits, your body will naturally default to its evolutionary programming, which is to store energy as rapidly as possible to survive the perceived famine you just put it through.
Which really brings up a profound societal issue. We are currently treating these medications as standalone consumer products, like a software update for the body. But clinical experts emphasize that these are not just magic weight loss wands. They are part of a real-world obesity treatment protocol that demands a long-term behavioral plan. If we just hand out the drug without the behavioral scaffolding, aren't we just setting millions of people up for a massive psychological and physical crash?
We absolutely are, and the cost of that crash will be astronomical, both financially and emotionally. It is a biological debt that will eventually come due. If you rely solely on the pharmaceutical intervention without changing the underlying environment or your response to it, you are just renting your results. To own your results, you have to change your physiology.
So, let us talk about taking ownership. If the hunger is coming back, if the furious security guard is banging on the door, what is our best line of defense?
Without a doubt, your primary defense is muscle. This is where the conversation has to pivot from just losing weight to altering body composition. One of the most dangerous side effects of rapid medication-induced weight loss is what we call the skinny fat trap. If you lost a significant amount of muscle mass along with the fat while on the drug, your resting metabolic rate is now significantly lower than when you started your journey.
Let me pause you there, because that is terrifying. You are saying that someone could weigh 50 pounds less, but because they lost muscle, their body now burns so few calories at rest that even looking at a carbohydrate might cause them to gain fat.
Precisely. Muscle is not just for aesthetics. It is a highly active metabolic sink. It soaks up glucose. It burns calories just by existing. If you shrank your engine while dropping the weight, you are incredibly vulnerable when the appetite suppression wears off. To stay lean post-medication, resistance training is absolutely non-negotiable. You have to send a loud, undeniable evolutionary signal to your body that muscle is a priority for your survival.
So, we need to be practically obsessed with muscle retention. And that naturally leads us to protein science.
Exactly. Heavy resistance training paired with a high evidence-based protein intake. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It takes more energy for your body to digest it, and it keeps you fuller for longer. By hitting aggressive protein targets, you are managing your satiety naturally, mimicking a fraction of the fullness the drug used to provide. Exercise physiology shows us over and over again that moving heavy things and eating adequate protein is the most powerful, proven tool we have for maintaining metabolic health and insulin sensitivity over the long haul.
Okay, so we are lifting heavy weights, we are prioritizing protein, we are building the fortress. But let us ground this in reality. What about cultural diets? What about the rice, the noodles, the family dinners? For listeners who come from backgrounds where carbohydrates are the foundation of every meal, like many Asian or Indian dietary realities, how on earth do they manage that without the drug artificially blunting their blood sugar spikes?
This is where we have to look at the mechanics of insulin resistance and the strategic use of fasting. Once the medication is out of your system, you are the one back in the driver's seat of your insulin spikes. You cannot rely on the drug to clean up the mess anymore. If you want to incorporate culturally significant, carbohydrate-heavy foods, you have to control the timing. Using intermittent fasting, or simply narrowing your daily eating window, is a vital tool. It gives your pancreas a break. It keeps baseline insulin levels low for large portions of the day, which is the absolute key to preventing your body from locking into fat storage mode.
It is fascinating because it shifts the focus from what you are eating to when you are eating, which allows for a lot more cultural flexibility. But we also have to address the brain. The neuroscience of this is wild. Appetite regulation isn't just about what is happening in the stomach or the pancreas. It is heavily dictated by our habits, our environment, and our neurochemistry.
Completely. You need a neuroscience-based habit plan, and it starts with things that seem entirely unrelated to food. Take sleep, for example. Poor sleep is a metabolic disaster. It spikes ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, and it tanks leptin, your fullness hormone. If you are sleep-deprived and off the medication, you are walking into a biochemical ambush. Your brain will scream for high-calorie, sugary foods to compensate for the lack of energy.
And that ties right back into dopamine management. We have been conditioned to use hyperpalatable food as a cheap, accessible reward. Bad day at work? Eat a donut? Feeling lonely? Order a pizza. The medication chemically blunted that reward-seeking behavior. Without it, how do we stop the brain from seeking those old, destructive dopamine hits?
By actively engineering non-food rewards. You have to rewire your brain's reward system. That could be through exercise, deep social connection, creative pursuits, or even cold exposure. You have to find ways to get that dopamine release that don't involve a drive-through. And we cannot ignore the role of the microbiome here. Gut health is paramount. If you transition to a high-fiber, gut-friendly diet, the bacteria in your microbiome actually ferment that fiber and produce natural GLP-1 right inside your body.
Wait, really? We can manufacture our own version of the drug internally just by feeding our gut bacteria properly.
Yes, the body has its own endogenous GLP-1 system. The pharmaceutical versions are just highly concentrated, long-lasting synthetic mimics of what your gut is supposed to do naturally when you feed it nutrient-dense, high-fiber foods. By repairing your gut health, you are literally turning your own internal pharmacy back online.
That is incredibly empowering. It completely reframes the narrative. So, the post-medication plan is not a diet. It is not white-knuckling through hunger pangs for the rest of your life. It is a total, foundational lifestyle shift. We are moving from being medically managed to being habit managed.
Well said. There is absolutely no magic to it. It is data-driven work. You use the medication as a bridge to get out of a metabolic crisis and reach a healthy baseline. But once you are there, you have to use sustainable lifestyle integration to stay there. You build the muscle, you manage the insulin, you protect your sleep, and you feed your gut.
It is about avoiding the miracle fat loss claims and rejecting the fear-based messaging that says you are doomed to fail without a prescription. If you focus on the deep longevity science, you are no longer just trying to maintain a fragile number on a bathroom scale. You are actively building a more resilient, capable, and healthier life. You are reclaiming your biological sovereignty.
Exactly. And I will add one critical piece of advice for anyone listening. If you are considering coming off these medications, do not just quit cold turkey on your own. Do it in partnership with a provider who truly understands clinical obesity medicine. You need someone who can help you taper the dosage slowly and transition safely while you are building up this metabolic fortress we have been talking about.
It is a profound journey from dependency to self-mastery. Thank you for joining us for this series. We have covered incredible ground, from the deep cellular mechanisms of longevity to the relatable, everyday humor of trying to navigate modern food environments. The science is clear, but the application is entirely up to you. Stay evidence-based, stay curious, and we will see you in the next series.
See you then.